Please welcome Cody Brown.
Well, good afternoon, you guys. So glad to be back. I'm sure we're all familiar with the phrase, money can't buy us happiness. And I'm proud to be here today to tell you that is overwhelmingly false. First off, if money can buy you Wingstop, well then you already know that isn't true. And secondly, if I had $100,000 in my checking account, well, I'd give you this whole speech with a smile. Girl, be for real. My point is, money makes the world go round, according to a 2023 survey from Empower, a retirement plan provider and financial holding company. Nearly 60% of Americans equate money with happiness. And this should come as no real surprise. In an era of high inflation, political polarization, and a litany of unknowns about our futures, well, simply put, everyone could use a little trust fund. But inversely, this system of transactions has had an effect on our perceptions. And that is my concern. That in a capitalist society, we commodify everything, from basic resources to our empathy for others. But we aren't able to see that just yet. So today, let's go shopping for some solutions, as we first invest ourselves in understanding the impacts of a capitalistic mindset. Then join me as we work to go on strike and take down the monopoly on our social interactions. And then finally, come together as we understand what it means to rip off the price tag that we've put on our empathy today. So how exactly does capitalism control the way we think? Well, trust me, I'm no stranger to thinking about money. I think about my bread all the time. But unfortunately, like most of you, I ain't got much bread to think about. Well, you see, that may actually be a part of the problem. Most people vastly oversimplify our economy into just transactions. However, this avoids the nuance of living in a society like ours. Spanning all the way back to the 1930s and the Great Depression, the phrase American dream was popularized to uplift spirits during economic turmoil. As explained by Paradigm Life in 2023, financial freedom and the American dream encompass living a life of fulfillment, freedom, and purpose. However, today, its substantive use has largely been diminished, solely to chasing economic success. The cause of this is quite simple: capitalism. In 2023, Dr. Karim Batosh, a cultural psychology professor for the University of Hong Kong, identified the invisible hand of capitalism, which molds not just our markets, but also our minds. Simply put, capitalism fosters ideologies of individualism, materialism, and competition. Subsequently, capitalism heralds itself as a proponent of the free market, but despite its name, is rather costly to our societal cohesion. In a research paper published by the Columbia Law School and authored by Andrzej Rogowski identifies wealth inequality as an inherent feature of capitalism. The reality that we often fail to see is that the American dream is founded on an engine which sustains inequality. Specifically, it divides our social classes. Those at the bottom can only ever dream of the top. And inversely, the financial struggle that more than 46% of Americans are faced with every day is their worst nightmare. Struggles like not being able to afford food, basic health care, or your child's education. Just take a look at the world around us. The impacts of capital culture are subtle, yet suffocating. And it doesn't just hurt me or you. These flaws in our society have resulted in the destruction of our communities, which leads me to my second issue, which is that capitalistic perspectives have put a real strain on our relationships. Now, your time is money after all, and we've already spent several minutes of it on a history lesson. So let's dig into some real examples. You see, capitalism shapes not just our lifestyles, but our relationships to be transactional. We've now blurred the line between mutual respect and an inherent need to view others solely for what they can do for us. For instance, it's certainly not a stretch to say that love has become transactional. Oh, clapping for that one. Well, Dr. Nicholas Verlinza, a PhD and licensed psychologist and director of psychology training at Nassau University Medical Center, found that structures such as capitalism have resulted in the undervaluing of others and shallower relationships. As Verlinza puts it, we now build relationships on give and take instead of real contextual interest in the other person, to the extent at which financial concerns are now at the forefront of even our deepest connections. Unsurprisingly, a 2024 Fidelity study found that more than 45% of couples argue about money regularly, and another 25% identified money as the greatest challenge in their relationship. Now, of course, some of these figures can be attributed to financial irresponsibility, maybe even a gambling problem. Michael Horn. But these figures are still indicative of the general and broader commercialization of love. Numerous academic journals, ranging from frontier psychology to Reddit, identify that a transactional approach to relationships has eroded the unconditionality that love is meant to provide us. The ironic nature of dating apps even hides these simple truths. Our value for romantic partners can be broken down into desirable traits, chucked into an algorithm, and somehow produce results that we find to be satisfying. But it begs a real question. If our love lives, or lack thereof, can so easily be represented by dollar signs and ones and zeros, well then what does that say for our communities? Well, look no further than our homeless population, the most notable victims of capitalism not just as an economic structure, but certainly as a social one. We have disabled veterans deemed unusable for work, cast out into our streets with little to no support provided for them. Single mothers sleep on the sides of our roads, as they can't afford to support their children. In the words of Mike Horvath, founder of the Invisible People organization, quote, "Everyone on the streets has their own story, and it's a reflection of our own society that we just leave them there. These people are ignored, invisible, unseen, and the most vulnerable of all. And yet, in June of last year, the Supreme Court ruled it was permissible to fine, ticket, and arrest these people for the crime of being unhoused. And these capitalistic perspectives that we've grown accustomed to have taught us to look the other way when they stand in front of us, to shun these people for their economic stature, to not even regard them as human beings. Essentially, we've become desensitized to the suffering of others when we deem it isn't worth our time. And that's the worst of it all. Because now our empathy has a price tag. Do you care enough to help? Why should you care? What do we even get out of this? With the world in so much turmoil, it only makes sense for us to pick and choose what we feel sympathetic towards. But it's also vital for us to realize that it's such a cohesive and also fractured time in our history that the solution to a global crisis of apathy starts right here in this room, with you and me, by taking 3 key steps towards a brighter future. By first acknowledging the situation and the privilege that we have. The cost, the price of convenience in our lives is also often the lives of the less fortunate, not just here in America, but throughout the entire world. Look to Africa, where we have child slaves in the Congo digging up blood diamonds to go on our engagement rings. Kids that won't get an education, healthcare, God forbid, get to live a long life. Or look to the Middle East and the near 80-year-long destruction of the Palestinian people. Just over a year ago, 6-year-old Hind Rajab was killed in the Gaza Strip by not just 1 bullet. 2 would have been an atrocity. 3 should have stopped our world. But by 355 bullets, she was executed. Hind, her family, and the paramedics that tried to rescue her were all gunned down. And yet our policymakers turn a blind eye to it all, too focused on the money signs behind the body bags to see what the true cost of these atrocities really is: our humanity. But me, I'm done being a sellout. For the second key step we need to take towards a brighter future, it's obvious. We need to do as any good business does and invest in our assets. That includes not just the material things that we purchased, but also the invaluable asset that is our empathy for others. By learning to reconnect with our empathy, we can open ourselves up to hard conversations about what's right and wrong in our society and who pays the price today. And lastly, I ask that all of you in this room join me in building an empire with the foundation not on profit revenue, but instead on humanity. By rebuilding our communities, one person, one place, one country at a time, with an emphasis on cohesion instead of exclusion, we can reshape our communities for the better, whether for children on the streets or veterans throughout the world. And so I'll be honest, in the beginning, I lied to you guys. Money really can't buy you happiness, which is why you should give all of yours to me. That's right. I take debit, credit, cash, gift card. In a second, my Venmo will be on the screen. Well, if there is any change I actually want from you, it's not in your pockets. Don't worry. Instead, as corny as it may be, it's right here, baby. Learning to take a step back, acknowledging what privileges we may or may not have, and acting with compassion first and foremost in our communities. Seeing people not just for what they have, but truly for what they're worth. If that's your one takeaway from this speech, then to me, that right there would be priceless. Thank you.